Hey Thirsty Souls, welcome back. So one of my missions in life is to find out what makes women so miserable and then help to change it. At least one of the factors of our unhappiness is feeling that people's interest in us is dependent on our beauty. To put it plainly, that our specialness and our importance lasts as long as our beauty does. Empress Elizabeth of Austria, otherwise known as Sisi, was considered the most beautiful woman alive at her time. She was also probably one of the most tortured, miserable women in the history of humankind. Many people call her selfish, egotistic, even psychotic. But reading this book, I would just call her stuck. Reading her biography, I saw what happens to the mental state of a woman who falls for the trap. Meaning, a woman who is convinced that her greatest asset is her beauty. In short, Elizabeth was the first cousin of the Emperor Franz Joseph. And although he was supposed to marry Sisi's older sister, the moment he saw Elizabeth, he fell madly in love. So at 16, she married him and was shipped off to the Hofburg, the imperial palace in Vienna. It is incredible to watch her transition from a fun-loving, passionate, free-spirited young girl who loved mountain climbing with her father and horseback riding in wide-open fields into a woman so miserably self-conscious that it's painful to even read her biography. Just remember, this woman was the empress of the most vast and powerful empire, and listen to the legacy she left behind. In almost any in-depth treatment of her life, in almost any biography you pick up, you'll read things, unfortunately, like this. In her biography, I've read how her emotional well-being was completely dependent on how beautiful she felt that day. She sometimes postponed meetings and invitations if she felt she didn't look good. She didn't want to be seen in public while she was pregnant. She maintained her weight of 110 pounds her entire life, even after 4 children, by means of starvation and excessive exercise for hours every single day. She would tight lace for an hour every morning in order to cut down her waist size to 16 inches. She installed a gym into every palace she owned. I was actually there in the Hofburg 2 years ago, and I saw the weights, the dumbbells, the bars, I saw it all. Towards the end of her life, she became scarily obsessed with her weight, weighing herself 3 times a day and dropping to 98 pounds. She took constant steam baths to prevent weight gain. She had ankle-long hair tended to for 3 hours every morning. She would hire someone to individually tweeze her gray hairs. She slept without a pillow on a metal bedstead to maintain her posture. She wore crushed veal and strawberry face masks and wore clothes soaked in vinegar to prevent her skin from stretching. And finally, to preserve her skin tone, she took a freezing cold shower every morning and an olive oil bath at night. At the age of 32, when she felt her youthfulness was fading, she refused to have her portraits painted or her pictures taken. Her daughter was quoted saying, "Much worse than the ailment is Mama's indescribable despair and hopelessness. She says that it is a torment to be alive, and she indicates that she wants to kill herself." Whoa. Honestly, Thirsty Souls, her misery does not come as a shock to me. She had no influential roles. She wasn't involved in government. There was no room for her even in communal work. She wasn't invited to meetings, conferences. Instead, she had etiquette classes and dress fittings. You see, since the world recognized her for her incredible beauty, she began to believe that that was what she should contribute most to the world. And when the one thing she was appreciated for, her youthful beauty, began to fade, she actually hid from the world because she actually believed she had nothing more to offer anyone. She quite literally hid so that they wouldn't see her wrinkles. It's just so sad to me because Sisi was this force of imagination and creativity forced into a mold of insignificance. Her existence was so small. And you know what, Thirsty Souls? In the year 2019, these feelings are still alive and well in millions of women around the world. How many of us feel less worthy when we feel less beautiful? How many of us are given extra attention when we put extra work into how we look? When the world tells us that the best we can do is have flat abs and long, lean legs, look really pretty, and wear beautiful clothing, you tell them that the mold they are squeezing you into is way too small for your vigor and power. That you have spirit, you have soul, you have a brain that is too rare and precious for so small an existence. I keep asking myself, why are so many young women feeling depressed, self-conscious, and overwhelmed by self-loathing and low self-esteem? And to me, the answer answer is really simple. If it's true what the world tells us, that we are good for as long as our beauty lasts, then what do we have to look forward to? The race against time! We have years and years and years of outrunning time and nature. Plastic surgery, mutilating our bodies to shave off a few years, needles and knives in our faces, because God forbid a wrinkle show itself on our skin. Lip fillers, butt lifts, tummy tucks, gym time, sunscreen and serums, anti-aging, anti-wrinkles, anti-life, anti-happiness, anti-living. No wonder so many women and girls aren't happy. Look what we've been reduced to. Look what we have to look forward to. By the way, doesn't this all sound a little familiar? Gorgeous, miserable, legendary. Marilyn Monroe? The poor woman was in agony for most of her life, and yet she's still an American legend. She's idolized, fetishized, deified, and all because she was beautiful. I just saw this home decor video, and a woman was plastering a huge picture of Marilyn Monroe on her daughter's wall. The woman died of an overdose. I really can't wrap my head around it. Similarly, Sisi wanted to die for most of her life, yet she is the inspiration for ad campaigns, commercials, TV shows. Chanel actually used her as the inspiration behind a fashion campaign. Listen to this, you are not going to believe this. Diana Vreeland, former editor-in-chief of Vogue magazine, wrote this in her memoirs. And Elizabeth, Empress of Austria and Queen of Hungary, is one of my heroines. Elizabeth adored her hair, took great care of her hair. Perhaps you remember the great Winterhalter portrait. She was one of the first modern women. She was one of the first women who did exercises, one of the first who did gymnastics, and one night a week she'd go to bed in special sheets of bath toweling packed in beefsteaks for her skin. Apparently, she never looked older than 30, ever. God help us. This was her existence. The Empress of Austria, who held Europe in the palm of her hand, is known for little more than her beauty and her exercise regimens. It's a real tragedy. What a waste of a truly unique mind. Thirsty souls, there is a force of corruption in the world that compels us to believe that we are most successful, valuable, and special if we are most beautiful. And then when our bodies become less socially acceptable, they are discarded, forgotten, and we become invisible. And I won't stand for it. Like I've said 1 trillion times, and I will continue to say for the rest of my life, women, know your worth. You are not just a pretty face, a body to be dressed up, enjoyed and stared at by other people. You are a queen with a mind, a brain that can change the world as we know it for the better. Let's do justice to the memory of Empress Sisi and never allow the corruption to influence us ever again. Stay strong and stay thirsty.